appreciate that. It's been really cool because we've actually, had this good opportunity to actually talk to people because we've been so isolated. So it's everyone's just really keen to have a chat.
Yeah. Has it felt a little bit weird for you guys bringing the singles out while everybody is in lockdown at the moment?
It actually has worked out, I think, maybe in our favour because we've actually been able to kind of focus and streamline how we want to digitally present ourselves and also create a fan base. I'm talking to you on Skype. Everything we do now is on internet, and so we're just navigating our way how to kind of reach the four corners of the world without having to tour. And I think everyone's kind of doing that. And what we're finding is that one of the things that we've created is we've actually started recording a new record, like an acoustic record, and it's basically given us time to do a lot of the things that we might have not done because life gets in the way sometimes. So you just got to deal with it, brother.
Yeah. I was going to ask that actually because I know speaking to a few musos, some have found that this has been a phase where they've been able to really be creative, and others have found it to be a time where they've just gone, you know what? I'm going to put down the instruments and just try to refresh. So you guys have been going through a creative spurt during the lockdown, have you?
Yeah, we have. We've this whole ISO thing, trying to create music, and I've, even watching my peers and my friends just create music, and then, create those awesome videos with everyone. Everyone's in a different room, and what we decided to do was to get all the songs from the record. There's 13 of them, and strip them back to like just an acoustic guitar. Gary's going to play some stand-up bass on them. Lots of bongos and different percussion. I've used the didgeridoo that I've got, and just kind of do things that are a little bit more creative. And then we're picking some of our favourite covers. We're going to pay homage to the favourite songs that Gary has from his In Excess days. And then Jimmy, our other band partner, and he's going to choose a couple of, classic 70s songs and just kind of be fun. It's like really fun to kind of know that you wake up in the morning and basically if you stick to the rules, all you got is your own brain and your own creativity. And luckily we all have home studios, so we can just, bounce ideas and yeah, mate, it's been really great. But I can imagine what it'd be like for a touring band guy who's been... We haven't been on the road, so I can imagine guys who do 200 shows and they're like just going, you know what, finally I get to hang out with my family, and they're forced to. It could actually cause problems, but who knows?
Yeah. What does that feel like? You just mentioned the covers there. What does it feel like sitting down and covering an In Excess song, because they are such amazing tracks, and I'm glad that the new generation is like embracing In Excess as well now. What was that actually like to actually sit down and record those tracks?
It's pretty amazing. Like Gary and myself have been jamming together for about 2 or 3 years now, and what we've done over in LA is we did this corporate band that we would book, and we'd do different shows like corporate functions and country clubs and things like that, and we would predominantly do In Excess songs. And so it was pretty awesome to have him kind of give me the thumbs up, and so we basically just said, if the In Excess boys aren't going to continue playing live, let's just create our own movement and pay homage to your legacy, because In Excess, I grew up listening to that. That was one of my favourite bands, and Gary's probably the only living member that's playing rock and roll. Andrew's doing country music, but what we're doing is, Michael Hutchins, arguably one of the coolest, most beautiful humans to ever hit the stage. So, big shoes to fill, but I love it. And I'm actually at Gary's studio now. We're doing a cover of The Stairs, which is coming out really, really beautiful. So, it's exciting.
I have to ask, how did you and Gary first meet? Like, was it through music circles, or how did you meet?
It was through music circles. I was on the TV show years ago, Rockstar, which was with Tommy Lee and all those lads. And then the year before, obviously, was the In Excess one. And when In Excess were on tour in 2007, and my band was on tour, we were in New Zealand, and In Excess were in Adelaide, I believe, and JD Fortune went Walkabout, and I got the phone call that said, hey, can you potentially fill in if we don't find him.
Yeah.
And so that's how I think that's how initially with Gary. Well, he actually came to a couple of tapings as well when we were on the show, but he knew who I was, and then we eventually were at I got hired to play a party out here acoustically, and it was one of the producers from CBS, and Gary was there, and I decided to play a couple of In Excess covers, and Gary got up, and the only bass that we had at the party was a left-handed bass. So Gary actually learnt his own songs upside down with a left-handed bass, and we became mates, and then we started doing corporate stuff together, and just getting him back into the groove. I think that would have been about 3 or 4 years ago, and then we had this one of his close mates, Jimmy Curry, come in, and Jimmy had been working for iHeartRadio doing like commercials, and he'd been on the road with like Beth Hart, and he'd recorded with the Heartbreakers and things like that, and so he was like looking for a new outlet, and so we just formed like a passion thing where we're just having fun and getting paid as well, and living on Gary's legacy, and then it just turned into writing, and one thing led to another. Gary let me into his vault, and that was awesome. So it was, I literally could. I've heard everything from John Stevens to Susie DeMarchi. I've heard like all their voices on different things that Gary's got, and then he showed me some stuff that he had of his own that never saw light of day, and we kind of created a few songs out of that, and then we started a whole new fresh record on top of that.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what has that writing process been like, and what kind of things have been inspiring you guys when you've been sitting down to work on this album?
I think what's the inspiration comes from Gary's knowledge of music. He's obviously like a different generation to me, so he loves all these jam bands and like fusion and prog rock, like the Weather Report, and he's a huge fan of like Deep Purple and Yes, and whereas I grew up listening to and getting attracted to musicians like Chris Cornell or Bono or Talking Heads and stuff. So it was more about like crossing our youth over, and then me introducing him to what is happening in today's rock and roll, which a lot of it he doesn't really like. But I'm a big fan of bands like Rival Sons. I love Nothing But Thieves. And then, a little guilty pleasure is the first record that 1975 came out with, and I think they're heavily influenced by In Excess as well. But the good thing about what Gary offers is that just his overall approach to music, he can hear why he was the bass player in In Excess, and it's just really attractive to me because I just love the band. So songwriting has been a pleasure because it's always around a really cool groove, and it's always emotive, and we're actually singing and talking about matters that matter to us and not just bullshit. Yeah, which is good.
Yeah. We've been playing both the tracks on air, so tell us a little bit about these two tracks. How did they come about, and what do they mean to you, these two?
I appreciate that, man. Thanks for playing the songs. Dust Bowl is actually a track that I'd written when I fool around with Logic, and I had that idea a couple of years back, and it was predominantly just an electronic beat that I had, and I hadn't done anything with it. And when I brought it to Gary, he's like, we kind of both went, that's got a little vibe that we both relate to. And so he put down the bass line, and then I created the story behind it. And the story actually is pretty cool because it's basically like imagining basically the Earth is pining for some sort of breathing space, and if we continue the way we're going, it's going to become a dust bowl. It's going to become an absolute shit show. The world will fall apart if we're not conscious of climate change and things like that. So it's based a little bit on that. It's based on this nomad experience. I was talking to one of the coolest stories about Dust Bowl. I was sitting at the Four Seasons where I host a jam night on Saturdays in Beverly Hills, and AC/DC was staying there before they were playing Coachella, which is years ago. And me and Sebastian, my drummer, we saw Cliff and Brian at the bar. We're like freaking out. So we just said, fuck it, we'll go and introduce ourselves. Brian ended up, saying, what do you drink? And I said, I love Jameson. And he goes, good lad, me too. And we started drinking, and he bought us rounds of drinks, and we were just chatting away, just in awestruck, with these legends. And he was talking about going to Coachella, and he goes, I've never been. What's it like? And I said, well, mate, it's literally just like a dust bowl.
Yeah.
And that's where the song kind of, the imagery formed. It was like this huge valley of nothing, and then everyone converges of it and just fucks it up, and it just turns into this huge mess. And so that was some of the imagery that I thought of the song. And what's happened now with the whole lockdown in Los Angeles is that the streets are pretty empty, and we've shot the music video through a drone, and I've attached a camera to the roof of the car, and we've actually captured LA literally looking like a dust bowl. So that's going to be the video that we're putting out in. It's being edited now, so that's going to come out soon. And so that's kind of where that song kind of came about. And then Mosquito, that was one of the tracks that was in Gary's vault. The opening line, the heavy bass with the kind of that kind of melody, and it went on to this whole other piece of horse shit that Gary had. He doesn't mind me saying that, but it was just that one thing, that heavy bass, that I was like, Gary, that's you. And then this whining sound that actually to me sounded like a mosquito, and being Australian, mosquitoes are part of our culture.
Yeah.
And as we all know, and so we wrote the song around that bass line and that kind of buzzing synth that he played. And just the whole motive behind that thing, it was just about, even though mosquitoes, can be annoying, sometimes you need a little shift, sometimes you need to be whacked, you need to like shake yourself out of a situation that you're in and change the way you're thinking. And sometimes when something comes in like a mosquito, it kind of wakes you up. You're like, what the fuck is that? Like what's going on? And it changes your focus. So that's where that came about. And I think I'm talking a lot, but that's okay.
No, that's fine. That's fine. It's so great to hear like where these tracks come from, because so often in the radio game you get given a track and you play it and you love it, but you never ever find out the story behind it. So it's awesome to be able to hear the story from you about where it came from. And I guess the one thing is, people are loving these tracks at the moment. The big question they're going to be asking is, when can we expect the album? Do you guys have a plan for that at the moment?
We do. So obviously we signed the distro and marketing with Golden Robot Records, and I'm really, really excited that their team is just really putting forward a great plan. And Gary wanted, Gary's old school, and I've been old school as well, but like I think I'm a little bit more in touch with how to kind of like just slowly bleed your music into this new way of thinking. And so we're going to do this double A side. We just wanted to give like a good perspective of the band first up. We'll do another single with the full EP in June.
Yep.
And so we have the third single come out. We'll shoot a video for that, and that'll be a five track EP. Then we're going to do 2 more singles with another EP, and then the full length with an extra 4 songs. So it's going to be. And then we're going to have a whole acoustic record as well. So I think the whole full length, depending on what's going to happen, but it could be before Christmas, but I'm assuming it's going to be late January, and it's a real journey record. There's a real love of Led Zeppelin in there. There's a real love of the 80s kind of synth, emotive kind of vibe, and some acoustic tracks. And yeah, it's got layers. It's got real great layers to it. And so I would expect that you're going to get at least, I think, 10 songs before the year's out, and then the rest of the record will come out. It's just, the industry now, it's like you don't want to waste some songs, so sometimes you put a whole record and people don't get to discover song 7 or whatever. So that's how we work one. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait to hear them. And what are the plans for you guys for touring? Like, I know we're all in lockdown at the moment, but have you guys got a tour kind of planned once everything is open back up again as well?
Yeah, we had a tour on the East Coast of America lined up. We had a really big festival that just got cancelled yesterday. So, unfortunately, that's in late July, and then we were playing at Daryl's house, which is, Hall & Oates. We were playing at his venue as well in New York, which we were excited about. But it looks like, I just think that, unfortunately, we thought that late July might be an okay time, but from what we're seeing in America, it's just not really looking likely.
Yeah.
International travel as well, like, because then now we're looking at Australia, like, if we can start really focusing on Australia, maybe we can be back there for the summer festivals. One of the things we were discussing is like Red Hot Summers and things like that, or I don't even know, but then we have to go into quarantine for 2 weeks as well. Yeah. So it's like we just don't know now, mate, and we just have to see if a lot of the restrictions and if there's a vaccine or the testings can come out and we're allowed to kind of do that. But yeah, mate, it's a struggle. All I know is that I know that bands are going to have to help each other out, because I think a lot of the smaller venues are going to close down because they just won't be able to afford to stay open. So we're going to have a lot of probably mid-sized to large venues that other bands are going to need other bands to fill. Yeah. I expect that you'll see a lot more tours like what Butterfly Effect do with Carnival and things like that. They'll do these big, double headliners, or Green Spoon and Living End. I'm talking about the bigger bands, and then the under the bands underneath them are going to have to form as well to fill these rooms. And so it'll be interesting to see what venues survive.
Definitely, yeah. Oh, look, it's such a weird time here at the moment. Like, this is the longest in my life, I think, since I was a teenager that I haven't been to a live show. It's like, yeah, and I think we're all starting to get a little bit restless here now as well. So I cannot wait for everything to open up.
I read the Aussie paper every morning online, and I saw that a few bars around the country had opening up, and it was the first thing was this guy was drinking beer out of a shoe, and I'm like, this is awesome. Yeah. Everyone's itching to get back into it. I think right now our focus is to see what's happening in the US and then making a decision from there. I'd love to be able to keep these shows going, but there's a lot of love coming from Australia, and I know that if we go down there's opportunities to play and have some great experiences. And, Gary and Andrew from In Excess are still in major contact. Andrew's still functioning, and it'd be amazing to go down there and have a couple of those lads jump on stage as well. So that's some of the dreams that I have. I can dream big if I want to. So we'll see what happens.
Definitely. Well, mate, I think we're about to play one of the tracks again on our show. So is there anything you'd like to say to all our listeners out there before they take another listen to one of your new tracks?
No, mate, well, appreciate it. Thanks very much. How's that for bloody talking? I just want to thank everyone very much for the support so far. And if you love what Gary did with In Excess, I think you're going to love what the record brings. But it's also a really fresh, original approach. And we look forward to coming down to Oz and spreading more joy and getting back out there and drinking beers with everyone.
All right, mate. Well, thank you so much for chatting to us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate it.